I mean, is it really a well? Kind of saw that coming though, didn't we? Of course it's a well, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Bitcoin's taken a little bit of a slump. I keep getting tagged on X. Why is price dropping when everyone is buying? Tonight, I'm going to explain to you so you guys can nip that question in the bin. And then you'll be leaving this live with a thorough understanding as to why, when prices are dropping, and then you're hearing the news anchors saying that this guy has bought, this company's bought, this guy has done this. And then you're there scratching your head thinking, why on earth isn't price rising? Because you are not looking at it correctly. When price rises, they're selling, right? Why do we not hear about anyone selling? You might hear about some companies selling, like BlackRock selling Ethereum. You should see what's going on chain right now with the ETFs. They're just rotating. Get out of Ethereum, go into Bitcoin. Dominance looks like it's doing all right. But Bitcoin's price is going down. And I'm going to explain it all tonight for you so you know what the story is. So that when someone says, yeah, man, I watch, so they're going to make the Bitcoin strategic reserve, man. And I thought I'd buy the Bitcoin because that's good news. And it's going down, man. What's going on? The market's broken. No, it's not. Let's get into the live stream, ladies and gentlemen, and break it all down for you. Now, before we actually do get into the live stream, if you haven't liked the stream, then you're going to have this guy doing this to your neck. I just thought it was a cool image, courtesy of all the guys in the Discord creating really cool memes. So, yeah, make sure you hit the like button, obviously, after tonight's live. So, let's get with the flavor and understand what's going on. We have some interesting news today, all right? Unemployment claims came in at 218,000, completely threw everybody off. No one anticipated that, all right? And the way they didn't anticipate is because the Federal Reserve's like, listen, man, inflation's a bit of a problem for us. It's too sticky. We're not getting any data on it. So let's just focus on something that we can really monitor. We can see a little bit of a change in trend, okay? So that would be the unemployment claims. And today it came in at 218,000. They expected 233,000 because they're seeing that the labor market is cooling off. Clearly not, ladies and gentlemen. It's doing perfectly fine. Now, longest losing streak in 1 month. Okay? This is where it gets interesting. What have I been saying to you all this week? When the yields go up, the stock market goes down. Okay? So, let's go over to the yields. Bitcoin. Never mind. I'm telling you, just stick with me. It's all part of the story because you're going to be leaving here with information. So, 2-year yield currently sailing at 3.66%. The 10-year yield going up to 4.176 with a high of nearly 4.2% on the 10-year. 30-year coming in at 4.75. And today, ladies and gentlemen, the reverse repo only managed to encourage $25 billion. That's nothing. So effectively, the US government's savings account, courtesy for Wall Street, they're not interested in it. Even the bid to cover ratio on the bond auction was a little bit soft. So what's going on? Ladies and gentlemen, they're all going over here. Cash seems to be the winner. Okay? In terms of a macroeconomic discussion, you can see over here, ladies and gentlemen, that we have got some very interesting story going with the US economy. The US economy is solid, all right? Durable goods orders up. Final GDP price index came in a little bit higher. But of course, existing home sales goes in higher. Everyone's been talking about house prices are going to crash. There seems to be a bit of a supply going off. The builders have all this supply going, and not many homes are being sold. Well, according to this, it's doing great. But you're not here for that. You're here to understand why Bitcoin's price has gone down. So, let's get into it. Firstly, Bitcoin. Our dearly beloved Bitcoin has managed to break down away from the 110,000, ladies and gentlemen. Now, just before I get into the juicy stuff, we did some decent trading today, okay? So again, I got shaken out with this euro story. I can't seem to get euro down to a T. The news today that came out, I was expecting euro to make a bounce from here. It didn't. It took a shoe bag to the downside. We were wrong over there. And then, of course, we were wrong on gold. I believe we were wrong on gold. Give me a second. Were we wrong on gold? Actually, no, we were all right. Gold didn't really do anything. Just stayed in exactly the same spot. Why? Because they're hedging. They're preparing for the next event. And the next event is, are we going to get interest rate cuts? But anyways, stick with me. NASDAQ. What a wonderful, shocking thing that was. It was hard trading NASDAQ today. Okay? I wanted to see NASDAQ take a little bit of a move up to the upside. For anybody that doesn't know, this is the platinum projections that I send out every single day to the platinum members. If you're not a member, check out. It's pinned to the top of the chat. You'll be able to join it, okay? But here's an example. My overall logic today was the NASDAQ was going to come down, okay? We had one cyclical move lower, another cyclical move lower. We were expecting another cyclical move lower. What I'm about to tell you in Bitcoin is very relevant right now. So make sure you're watching this bit, okay? NASDAQ today took a storming move to the downside. We're just going to have a look at that. It just completely said no thank you, okay? Absolutely unbelievable price action, okay? They came down and just swept the bids. They came and bought everything. They were all sitting there on the sidelines. Gimme, 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 gimme. The bid guys were like, yo, come on. Give me your coin. Give me your NASDAQ contracts. I'll take them. Sell it, sell it, sell it. What news came out? The logic that we were never going to get an interest rate cut, or the fact that the labor market is just doing fine, so we don't need to cut rates anymore. Oh my God, investors were selling. Overvaluations overall. Look, stock fell as valuation worries overshadowed data showing the economy is holding up. The figures didn't have much of an impact on the Federal Reserve bets, but the bond yields rose. Bitcoin sank. All right then, cool. So we wanted to see NASDAQ take a nosedive to the downside. I wanted to see that 24,500. I expected a stop and volume candle to come into play in that range. But we didn't quite get that. We got the 24,000 to 24,421, okay? And what I did today was I wanted to wait for price to make the move to the downside. Then when we saw this reversal back up, I saw this green vector candle and I said, no, there's no way that the NASDAQ is going to do this free of charge, okay? No chance. So I started building shorts inside of here. So I played shorts in two ways. First way, I scalped the dear life out of NASDAQ today. So if you zoom in on your phones and what have you, this is my personal live account with NinjaTrader. Today we made $5,243, but we were scalping like no tomorrow, all right? 51 trades, just scalping in and out, okay? Now, the cool thing is with this, is I said to myself, right, I believe that NASDAQ is going to come down. So I play the futures markets and I say, okay, I'm going to try and make some money today on the idea that price is going to come back down towards this vector candle. Why? Because the bids got activated. Keep in mind that what I'm going to tell you about Bitcoin very shortly. The bids got activated when price came to the downside. They were buying it as it was dropping on the back of the weak hands that were selling. They were panicking over valuations and all that stuff. Everyone was getting squeezed out. Equally, the guys that have been bidding and buying on the downside instantly then saw the offer process and marked it back up again, okay? Now, for the game to actually continue, this area here is a massive imbalance. So the logic says that price is going to come back into that zone to test the same dudes that were going to be able to bid again to then offer out one more time, okay? They did it twice. So I ran the shorts in the futures markets for about $5,600, which is around $4,000, just shy of £4,000 UK. And then I opened some puts, because it was harder to navigate NASDAQ in the futures markets because I'm using contract sizes and I was using the micros and I was playing around 25, 30 contracts. And then I was on the minis on the S&P and I was playing around 5 contracts on there, 4 or 5 contracts on that. And it was kind of difficult. But I said to myself, let me protect myself because I'm expecting the day to end up down anyways. And I ended up opening puts, 4 positions. Margin was around £1,000 per position. And we entered in at a strike price of 46.9 and we sold at 179. These were puts. I was favoring price to go to the downside, okay? And we ended up clearing £9,476. And then you convert it with the other 5,249. We're now looking at about £13,000 a day overall. And that was exploiting this logic right here about the bids and the offers, okay? Back into the vector candle, the bids were triggered, the offers got activated. So, Tino, after you've told me that, you've had a great day, cool, cheers, bro, happy days, what does it mean for Bitcoin? Okay, well, we had the Bitcoin trade covered today with the Platinum members. It was a little bit tricky, but we wanted to see Bitcoin try and make a little bit of a move up. But what they did was they just continued to go down. And my bias was that we're looking for Bitcoin to come down to attack the 108,826. Did we get that? Well, we got 108,620. Can't complain about that, ladies and gentlemen. That was a nice play right there. You would have been running your shorts from here. Now I'm going to get to the flavor on helping you understand why Bitcoin's price has dropped. So let me ask you a question, right? If you're going to buy $100 million worth of Bitcoin, is cash flow really a problem for you? Let me show you. Here you go. Right here, Chinese company Pop Culture Group to buy 1,000 Bitcoin worth $100 million. So let me ask you the question. If you're buying Bitcoin for $100 million, is cash flow really a problem? Logic says no. Okay? Another one. Bitcoin dips below 110,000 as ETFs record 241 million inflows despite market downturn. Hold on. Where we go? Oh, look at this. BlackRock's getting busy again. So 291 Bitcoin purchased 6 hours ago. 134 Bitcoin purchased 6 hours ago. 291, 127, 1.5, and then 290 Bitcoin all purchased 6 hours ago. So the question is, Tino, why is everything dropping when the news is just showing us that everything is just showing accumulation? Okay, then. Let's break it down like this, ladies and gentlemen. Look. In front of you is this chart. This chart is going to tell you what wave we are in, what cycle. And I'm not talking about Wyckoffs. I'm not talking about Fibonacci's. I'm not talking technical analysis. I'm talking who is participating in accepting that Bitcoin is looking nice. Because you're all questioning why Bitcoin's price isn't going up because everyone is buying. But why don't you ever question when Bitcoin's price is going up and why are people selling? Don't you ask that question? Don't you ask yourself the question as to why was this rally to the upside here? Why was no one saying, yeah, but who wants to sell 14? Look, $15 million worth of Bitcoin was sold on the move to the upside. Or look, 18 million Bitcoin was sold on the move to the upside. Why is no one saying that? Why is no one complaining about that on X? Everyone shuts the when it comes to Bitcoin's price going up, and all they're doing is encouraging people to buy it because it's these guys right here who are selling it. So what do we look like we're doing right now? Looks like we've got ourselves a little bit of wave to the downside. It shows participants are buying, okay? Let me explain. In front of you, okay? You've got, here we go. Here's a perfect example. Look at this. Zoom in if you can see it. This is the NASDAQ. On the depth of market. Down here, you see this? It says 10, 6, 7, 9, 11, 7, 8. When price drops, there's a dude that comes in and says, yes, please. I'll take that. Yeah? Over here, you've got 6, 4, 8, 6, 7, 7, 6, 6, all the way up there. When price goes up, those guys are like, thank you very much. I will take that and buy that from you. Okay? The market has just closed. This is where they sell. This is where they buy. Okay? When you understand that they buy when prices drop, they sell when prices rise, you won't be asking questions like, why is Bitcoin going down? I say it to you all the time. Focus when price drops, because then you're going to start understanding when those guys are ready to start making a bit of a profit. As it stands right now, Bitcoin is taking a bit of a tumble to the downside. All right? Who's buying? Well, you've had some dudes here. 35 million purchased at 111,088. Okay? They're going down. 1 million, 107. 108,000 down there. Another 1.05. Okay? Go further down. What we got here? Who's stepping in? We got a nice little 10 million order at 106,800. All right, what about down here? 1.7, 3.2, 12 million down, 105,000. Okay, looks like the bids are starting to collect. Zoom out, you then say to yourself, okay then, there looks like there's a possibility that the bids are happy to participate all the way down to this area here at 102,000. Now the 100,000 seems like a logical spot for Bitcoin to reverse, does it not? It does. So go over to this and look at it from this perspective. This is the candlestick, right? Inside this candlestick is a relationship between bids and offers, okay? Now, here, you've got all these bids. These are bids, okay? This is where someone wants to buy, okay? Now, when this candlestick goes down, bang, eats the order, bang, eats the order, bang, eats the order, bang, eats the order. If the book can see that there is still more participants willing to transact as price keeps on going lower, that's what you're going to get. Drop, retrace, drop, retrace, drop, retrace, and then flush all the way through. When these dudes right here are happy and content with wanting to sell their Bitcoin, you will then start to see the opposing thing coming into play, which will be the offers. They will start to stack up. So then when you get another candlestick open after you've seen a drop to the downside, you will then see this. All the guys that have been caught inside of here, selling, quickly sell it. Bitcoin's dropping because you sell it when it drops. What do you hold Bitcoin for? To sell it at the highest price. So why on earth are you selling it when it drops? Doesn't make sense. Now, it depends on where you're getting close to capitulation. You might not be able to handle it. But like I said before, if you're buying $100 million worth of Bitcoin, then, of course, money is not an issue right now, which is why they can absorb the idea of Bitcoin's price going down. So when it's getting ready to start coming back up, you will then see the candlestick eat the offers. Bang, retrace, up she goes. Retrace, up she goes. She starts to attack the offers. That's right there. Where are we at? Here we go. That's this pink stuff. What do you see? Do you see any pink stuff? You see a little bit, but you don't see any commitment. You don't see a lot of it. Looks like we've got ourselves a little bit of offers all the way at the top side of 110,500. Logic says that if the offers are only coming up towards that point, then all these guys that have been buying Bitcoin here are only in it for the short term. And then they'll sell it off as it moves back up again. But the other participants, you can tell that they're actually holding on because they're involved in a buying cycle. They're going down. They want it to go down because if you're buying $35 million worth of Bitcoin, money is not a problem. So that means you're either buying for a bigger pot of liquidity. You might have $100 million and you're going to be buying Bitcoin $1 million at a time. $1 million. Every time it drops down, $1 million, $1 million. And then when price starts to work its way back up again, then you'll be like, you know what? Actually, hold on. I think we might actually get ourselves some buyers. Because remember, even though the Federal Reserve is getting information to not grant the idea of a rate cut, Goldman Sachs is projecting out the S&P to go to 6,800, 7,000, and 7,200. So the idea is that stocks need to come down because they're hitting on the bid side, buy some stocks on the cheap, and then hit the move back up again. Why do you think the NASDAQ took a sharp reversal earlier on? Because they went bid side. They've priced in. They've priced it in. That's what they've done today. They've priced in this information right here. Now, what will really be the nail in the coffin per se, or the idea of maybe price going down again in the future, is the core price index. So if we go over to it, you can see here that it says core price index is scheduled to come in at 0.2%. Is that good news or bad news? That's wonderful news. Why? Because it means that if the core price index comes in lower, that means the cost of goods and services effectively coming down. So if that's coming down, Federal Reserve is going to be like, okay, we got some flavor here. Let's actually cut the rates because from a pricing point of view, courtesy of the dual mandate BS, all right, price stability and maximum employment, the pricing story looks like it's working. So we can justify a rate cut. That's all we're waiting for. So they've priced in that logic today with the idea that the unemployment claims came in a little bit under. We didn't want to see a positive figure, we wanted to see a bad figure. So what did the market do? It priced it in. And that's your pricing. And this area here is the area that they were content with. The stock market has dropped down quite significantly, but the stock market seems to be doing this. Tomorrow, what you're going to hear some good news somewhere, and the market is then going to shoot up from that. Okay? The only way that the market is going to continue to come back down again, ladies and gentlemen, is if we do get any more bits of data, like the price index, that will suggest that inflation is a problem. If the core price comes in higher than 0.2%, then, ladies and gentlemen, it's unlikely that we're going to get some interest rate cuts. The market will then price it in and drop down again until it hits a point of value where participants are like, you know what? Yeah, we get some discount on stocks right now. Speaking of which, let's go and have a look at some stocks. Have we got any stocks that are at discount? Nvidia, trading still positive. All right. Tech is still holding up. So in all this madness, tech is still holding up, except Bitcoin ain't doing so well. But let me tell you, Bitcoin will start to come back up when the guys that are done buying it want to sell it. So don't ask the question, why is Bitcoin dropping? Because, and everyone's buying with all this great news and everything. I mean, look, it's all there. I mean, look, we lost out on that area of open interest with Bitcoin. It's just done. Here we go. Look at this. Here we are. Click that. Look, it's tapped that zone. It's at that 109,000. Now we've only got this one little area down here, which is at sub 107,500. They can't hold this point here. There's a good chance they're not going to hold this 107,500 region. That's going to be a problem. But you've got to also understand, ladies and gentlemen, that the participants playing Bitcoin, when you're buying so much and with the inflows of the ETF still rising. Let me just go have a look at the inflows of the ETF, the balance itself. Hold on. 768,000. Wow. Look at that. 768,285. I think that's not even the high. I think there was about 769. Ladies and gentlemen, your supply is going there. It will go to about 1 million. Most definitely. It will most definitely go to 1 million. All right? They are content with it going down because that's your DCA story, is it not? Because if we're on the idea of a upwards move, because what did they say? Where is it? Here we go. Where was the news announcements that I saw? It says, here we go. Trader says Bitcoin prime for more downside before up only mode. Okay. And updates Ethereum outlook. So he says here, Van de Pop, I don't even know how to say his name. He says, I would assume that we'll be going to get some more downside and then we're done for the current period, meaning that we will only be in up mode. Okay. And it says here that he's looking for buys at 103,000. Let's work that logic out and justify whether that is a valid claim. Okay. So let's go on the idea of the cycle, right? Go to the 4-hour time frame and look at where we are. Okay. Here we go. So M formation, drop, retrace level 1. Yeah. Logic says that we're looking for a level 2 drop to the downside. Level 2 drop will take us down to 103,000. Knowing Bitcoin, it will click the 100K. Okay. That could be a level 2, right? If they can sustain the logic here and that they are done with accumulation, because this was the last area of accumulation for Bitcoin, and the logic says that if it can sustain this range, then the 100,000, 104,000, that zone will be an area that Bitcoin really should be bouncing at, okay? And that should be an area that we should see Bitcoin try and make a recovery back to the upside. Remember, Bitcoin moves at speed. So even when it comes to the cycles, it moves at speed, right? So we've got that logic coming into play. Bitcoin breaks down from here. But Tino, what if that zone is not the final destination? Because if we're going to go by the cycle says that this is a level 1, then this zone is level 2. So what will be level 3? Would that be level 3? So then we could then go on the assumption that Bitcoin could bottom out, 90 zone, big discount, shift out. That could be a logical thing. Why? Because look how much time they spent in that range over there. They didn't spend too much time. Not much time there. That meant they want to get in and get out. Tried to go into it, got away from it. Same logic. So you've got to understand now that these participants are more than happy to keep bidding. Look at this. Look at all these bids down here. 102,000, 10 million, another 10 million, 2, 5, 6, right? Starts to dry up as we get a little bit further down, but the closer price gets towards this area, more bids are going to start coming into play. Why are participants loading up here? So you're now looking at this chart thinking to yourself, you know what? Hold on a second. I actually believe that maybe that could be the point where the bids are exhausted to the point where they've been soaking up all of those sells, and the ETF itself is growing in balance, price is going down. People need a good reason to buy. They need someone to sell to. Bitcoin reserve comes out. Someone does this with Bitcoin. Someone does that with Bitcoin. Something massive happens. We're getting a rate cut. Bang! Everything shifts to the upside again. And all of these guys have just been preparing it nicely, loading up. And then when you're all screaming your heads off because Bitcoin's dropped and you've sold your Bitcoin, you're going to come knocking on these guys' doors saying, please, I want to buy the Bitcoin. And he will gladly sell it to you, ladies and gentlemen. And none of you will be complaining about the price going up because you're going to be selling it. They're going to be selling it to you. You are the exit. All right? Right now, They're taking it off you. They're buying it up. Leverage traders are getting the price, getting themselves smacked in the face right now. All those liquidations are getting triggered. Once they're done with this cyclical move to the downside, once they're done with the logic that value on Bitcoin's getting triggered, well, there's your value right there. It's there before even price gets to it. This is a screenshot, a snapshot of people's perceived value. That tells you where Bitcoin in principle should be reversing. The logic says that you click that 102, maybe 99,000 region, that's where Bitcoin will reverse. Just look at the events that are coming up to it. We keep getting information about the employment market is doing great, all right? They expect it to be between 4.3, 4.5% unemployment rate. So anytime we get any data on the non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate, if it's anything between 4.3 and 4.5, the market's already going to be anticipating that. So we can outrule that. If non-farm payrolls come in, great. Price is going to keep going down. We're going to have interest rates higher for longer. Dollar dominance keeps on going up, okay? They keep on going up, keeps on going up, keeps on going up. Then what happens? Then after everything has taken a nosedive to the downside, the dollar dominance is trading at significant highs. You've now got an appreciation on your dollar, ladies and gentlemen. Guess what? You can now buy Bitcoin with less dollars. What a perfect time to do that. Would you not want to do that as a billion-dollar mutual fund? Would you not want the purchasing power of your dollar to be worth more? Right now, I believe all of this is happening just to get the purchasing power of the dollar back up again. That's all. And then once it's back up, then they'll bring it back down again. And you would have bought everything with strong dollars, hold less of it with more value in principle. And then when you sell it, it's worth more. And yeah, you get kicked back on the dollar, but you've made your money on the spread in principle. So does that make sense to you all, ladies and gentlemen? When prices drop, it's the bids. They are soaking up everything. They're passive orders is what they like to call them. They just sat there on the book waiting for you to sell so they can just go, yes, please. I'll take that. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I'll take that from you. And then when you're like, oh my God, Bitcoin's running to the upside. Quickly, quickly, quickly buy. He's there like, take that. I'll take that from you. Yep, thank you. I'll take your buy order. Thank you. I'll sell it, sell it, sell it. Let me get the out. And then Bitcoin hits the top all-time high and you're like, let's buy, baby. And that's when the offers say, surprise, mother. There's no one up there. No one's really want to sell, but you've got all these people buying. And if no one's going to sell at those prices anymore, the market's going to be like, well, let's go back down, man. The guys are looking to buy. So we'll just send it back down again. Force everyone to sell it because you're trading price. Trade intention, trade perceived value. Trade the logic of why someone would buy something at a discount and want to sell it at a premium. Then you won't be worried about posts saying this. You'll know that price is going to be coming down. Look, it's there. Look, do you think the market's that easy? Look, Chinese pop culture company is going to buy 1,000 Bitcoin. Quickly buy. Well, you would have been in a shocking street right now if you were buying on that information. Whether they bought it or not, ladies and gentlemen, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. You've got to get it in your minds that this is about value. Bitcoin's too expensive right now for certain people, but they're happy to buy it as it's going down because they know it's going to come back up. They know it's going to come back up because there's going to be enough participants coming into Bitcoin at a specific point with all the guys that have already not trapped, but got positions in this. Just look at this. Tell me the logic's the same, okay? All these guys have been buying here, they offload, all right? Cool. All these guys have been buying here, they offload, right? All these guys buying here, they offload. All these guys buying here, they offloaded. All these guys buying here, offloaded a little bit. More buying to come into play, offload a little bit. That's all this is, ladies and gentlemen. Capiche? So don't lose your minds when you see price going down, all right? Don't. Just understand who's buying. You're buying $100 million worth of Bitcoin. It means you can withdraw the drawdown. And there's probably more Bitcoin to be purchased at lower prices. So when you start seeing people saying, everyone's been buying, but price is going down, it doesn't make sense. You've got to really question what they're really saying. Like how, if anyone says to you price rises because people are buying it, yeah, okay. If someone's up here wanting to sell, who's going to buy you get it? That's the logic. It's just a game of who's prepared to buy, who's prepared to sell, and what's their perceived idea of value. Right now, Bitcoin's valuable. It's coming down. I'll step in and pick it up. And then it's going to get to a point where it's so concentrated where there's enough people that have been absorbing the buys, absorbing it. People keep selling and selling and selling. And then that's when they offer it out. And then the market turns. It's simple, but it's just timing it. That's the hard bit. Don't always aim for the biggest move. Take 10, 15% of it. If you can get 15% of it, you're laughing. You know? How would core PCE affect prices? I mean, it should be lower than 0.2% for market to move lower, as everyone will anticipate that we are not getting rate cuts. If PCE comes down, that's good news. We need prices of goods and services to come lower, because this is all about the impact that inflation is having on the interest rates. So a low reading will be good news for us because it means that we're going to get rate cuts, okay? Naturally, when the cost of goods and services goes down, it means that, yeah, you could imply that there's a little bit of a problem. There's no consumer demand. I get all of that. But all the data that comes out now is not from an economic point of view. It's deciding whether or not the market's going to get the rate cuts. And that's the problem we've got. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, quite a few of you are watching and none of you have liked. Get on with the likes, ladies and gentlemen, or this guy's going to squeeze your throats. Anyways. With that being said, Tino, we're seeing distribution in the NASDAQ right now with the big players quietly unloading positions. Big players have been ladies and gentlemen, big players have been unloading positions for a long time on the NASDAQ, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, this rally up, last week, we saw inflows of around $6-7 billion from retailers. Retail traders are fueling this move to the upside, ladies and gentlemen. Ain't no one with a bean on their mind that is actually buying at these highs. People are selling, okay? Now, it depends on which company you're buying into. If you're buying medical, you're buying tech, or you're buying defense space, it all change. It doesn't matter realistically. It's all down to your preference and what you can absorb, all right? Because ultimately, you ever ask yourself the question that even though the stock market's in a downwards move, why are there always stocks that always make big moves to the upside? Let's just quickly go and have a look at something. Wait there. Let's have a look at screen results. Hold on. Let me just hold on a second. Here we go. Watch this, right? Let's have a look today. The stock market was down, right? So let's have a look at the stocks that were up today. West Bancorp, all right? Let's click that. That stock was up today, up 2.49%. Physical Platinum, that's up. Fluence Energy, that's up. Vanak Rare Earth, that's up. Physical Palladium, that's up. Physical Silver, that's up. You're starting to get the idea of where the money's going in the stock market. Everything's down except this. They're going into commodities. Why? Because they're scared. Capiche? That should make sense. Chinese provider of carrier-neutral internet data centers hosting managed network services, up. I mean, I can give you some game on all this stuff, man. Like industry sectors, it's yeah. But anyways, with that being said, I hope you've enjoyed the live stream. Okay, more information on the hybrid. Get to the Traders Reality website. There's a video and a PDF on the homepage. Go and check it out. It's everything about the hybrid system that you need to know. And more information on understanding the bids and the offers as well on that website. Okay? With that being said, guys, remember, they buy it when it drops. They sell it when it rises. Okay? I hope you've enjoyed tonight, guys. Mad love and respect. And I'll tune into you all